Say yeah, it feels good, don't it? Damn, it feels good to have people up on it. Say yeah.
Welcome, everyone, to episode 33 of Community Chronicles, a DDPY community video interview series. My name is Anthony Vignes. My guest for this episode is known simply in DDPY circles as the Roundhouse Queen, Connie Arrington. How you doing, Connie?
I am doing great, thank you.
Well, I'm pumped that Connie agreed to join me here for this interview. She's someone that's been on my list for a while. Connie's participating in the Positively Unstoppable Challenge for the second year in a row, correct?
Correct.
And so Connie, tell us a little bit about what brought you to DDPY and what has the program done for you since you got here?
Well, to start with, I think a lot of people, women especially my age, came along at a time when we were first being encouraged, hey, get out there, do what you want, do your thing. But then when you get out there, there's limits. And so it's like every time you put your foot out there, somebody steps on it. So I tell you that just kind of as a little background to who I am, because I became the kind of person on one hand where if you told me I couldn't do it, well, that was more fuel to make me want to do it. For instance, the day of the World Trade Center bombing, I had been training to do a marathon in Ireland for the Arthritis Foundation. I was going to walk/jog it, and I messed up my hip, and I was in a physical therapy thing, and the guy's like, well, I can tell you right now, there's no way that 12 weeks from now, whatever, you're going to go do 26 miles. So that was like my fuel, because October 30th, so it's only like, a couple months later, I was in Ireland and I completed 26.2 miles at a 15-minute mile pace, just because I could. So then I went back to school at 43. Never taken a chemistry course in my life because girls weren't pushed into the sciences, and so I didn't need it. So that was going to determine whether or not I became an occupational therapy assistant. And actually happened to be in the middle of a move, so I had to drive 2 hours back and forth to class. My father died in the middle of this class, but I came out of it with an A, and it was like, wow, what could I really have done if I knew I could do it? So went on to become an occupational therapy assistant, and I fell in love in my second clinical. It was in a burn center, and I fell in love. You either know it's your place or it's not your place, and it was my place. And I've been there for 10 years. It's the only place I've worked as an occupational therapy assistant, and I get to do for other people what DDPY does for all of us. I give people a toolbox. I hand them the tools. I teach them how to use them. And I set them up for success in life, because I get people who often, I see them from within 24 hours of when they come in, sometimes till, sometimes they're a patient there for over a year. And I'm the last person who sees them in the end, because my job is to help them move. Bodies that don't want to move, whether it's a finger whether it's a neck, whether it's a mouth. We don't imagine all the ways that people are stopped with a burn, but I help them get their lives back so that they can go back out in the world and enjoy being alive. And there is nothing more fulfilling than that. So how I ended up in fact, let me show you real quick. I'm wearing this. This is a bracelet with a butterfly on it. I had a patient who was burned over 87% of her body, young woman, survived, is thriving, and she gave me this when she left. The butterfly was her symbol. She had decided with her mother that she had been in a cocoon and she was emerging as a butterfly, and she was going to take flight and be awesome in this world. And so she gave me this as a reminder of how I helped her get there.
That's amazing.
You can see this is why I love what I do. So what happened is in 2021, I was starting to have a lot of problem with my knees. And I one day was sitting on the floor with a toddler who couldn't hold himself upright because of his burn. He'd lost his balance. So I had him leaning against me while I wanted to get up. And I found myself trying to figure out, how am I going to get off the floor and support him at the same time? And I was like, okay, this doesn't work, because this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my career, and I have to be able to move. So I went online, found the Arthur video, don't we all? And started looking into it. And last year, a year ago, the end of November, it was Thanksgiving weekend, I subscribed, did my first workout in the beginning of December. And when the challenge came along, I really jumped in it because of the community, to have a smaller group to interact with. Mm-hmm. That's why I did it, the challenge. And I started out with the whole goal of building flexibility. And kind of what happened there was, well, I kind of saw amazing results really quickly, and it didn't seem real. It was like almost too easy. I mean, if that makes sense.
It does, yeah.
And it was like, no, wait a minute, this is just way too fast and too easy. So I started looking for trouble. I started looking at other people's goals and saying, oh my goodness, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing this. I should be doing this. I should be losing weight, which wasn't why I was there at that moment. Oh, wow. I should be, doing these red level workouts because I saw this person do it. And I kind of lost myself in it a little bit. And then I started getting noticed, and it kind of freaked me out. I had done a post for my 56th birthday, just basically talking about how great DDPY had been for me. And it was featured on Fabulous Fridays. And when that happened, I was like, oh no. It's great when I'm doing it because somebody told me I can't. I mean, part of this the reason I started posting and all that to begin with was because my doctor had also asked me to see a physical therapist rather than just an online thing. And I went to see the physical therapist, and he's like, oh, 80% is good enough. He's like, at our age, we really don't need flexibility, at least not that much. And I was like, okay, that's crap. So that's why I started doing it, just to prove to myself, really, not anybody else, that I could do it. I didn't end up entering the challenge. You probably remember this. I don't know. When I said I started comparing myself to other people, there were a couple times you made a comment And I answered back, yeah, but I can't do a chin up.
Oh,
Well, so what?
exactly. So
I'll
what?
never say that again, by the way, because so what? I can't do a chin up, but that wasn't my goal. I didn't want to anyway.
Exactly. How the hell are you going to do a chin up when you're working on sticking your foot above your head?
Yeah,
It doesn't
yeah,
work
but
like that.
that's kind of what happened in my head. And so it kind of all fell apart. And I didn't really document like I should have. So when it came time to enter and people were like, oh, I feel good about this, you know, you could be unstoppable and all this, it didn't feel genuine to me, because it was like, if I don't feel unstoppable right now, how can I say I'm unstoppable? So I didn't enter.
Okay. Well, it makes but you learned something, right? You learned that it's not just about the physical stuff. There's a mental aspect too, and it's very easy to fall into that comparison trap. Now, you say that you would say, well, I can't do a chin up. Well, Connie, I will never, no matter how many times I try, no matter how hard I work on it, be able to do a split of any kind or be able to lift my foot over my head. I won't. So those aren't things that I work on, right? I work on.
Though I know it's not reality,
Yeah.
my brain says everybody can do that.
Oh, yeah. No, you go ahead and try it. And then you learn that, well, no, not everybody can do that. And a lot of that stuff takes repetition. You got to be working on that thing to be able to do that thing. But yeah, the saying that we always hear in DDPY is eyes on your own mat, right? Compare yourself to you and look at how far you've come. Because every single person out there has those same thoughts if they let themselves about how, wow, look at what that person's doing. I can't do that. I'm not doing that. Well, who's that constructive for? Who does that help? Maybe you take a little inspiration from it to try working on something else, but you have to celebrate you.
Absolutely. And that's kind of how I got to this year, because I was a little undecided about whether I was going to do the challenge this year or not. Because it's like, well, you know, if I can put my foot above my head and that was my goal, then now what am I going to do? Well, you know, you come up with new goals. That's what you do. But I told my mom, I don't know if I talk about my mom a lot in my posts, because 1 week a month I drive to West Virginia and I'm a caregiver for my 91-year-old mother. So she enters into my posts a lot. But I was telling her, oh, I think I'm really going to do this. And I'm really going to get into this, and I'm going to do the very best I can. And she started giving me all the reasons why, oh, but what if somebody has better goals than you do? All these things. So I happened to put a post out about this is where the doubts creep in. And that was actually Thanksgiving weekend, or just before Thanksgiving this past year. Okay. So I had to work Thanksgiving weekend, and I went to see a patient. I come back and there was a message on my phone, and I just happened to pick it up and listen to it. And it was Dallas Page. Mm-hmm. And he says, Connie, I saw your post. And I just wanted you to know that I've seen you grow this year, and I've seen you gain confidence, and I don't want the doubts to creep in. I want you to continue with your goals. I want you to continue with your plan, and I want you to enter, because I want you to be the best you can be.
That's amazing.
How can you not enter?
Exactly. Exactly. So all of those things that, yeah, we all deal with it, right? And what your mom brought up, what if they have better goals than you? What if they make more progress than you? What if they document better than you? So what? Yeah. Right? Who cares? Is that a reason to just say, oh, well, screw it, right? Let's go hang out on the couch and I'll just watch. No, you keep working on you, and you celebrate you. That all of your goals are based around when you're writing a goal down today, it's based on where Connie is today and where Connie wants to be. And it's got nothing to do with anybody else. So learning that takes time. It's a process, but once you do, then you learn how to celebrate everybody. You learn how to look at the positive aspect of what other people are accomplishing. Maybe you choose some of those things to try out for yourself, but then you also learn that, no, hey, this is my thing that I'm working on over here and I'm doing just fine on it.
Absolutely. But what I did discover was part of my thing last year was, well, really, I mean, I'm looking to be flexible. Look at all these people who have these huge lives and huge goals and huge, you know, I don't really have that much. And then I found out it's like, oh my gosh, I've got this whole mental thing I never knew I had because I didn't think I had that.
Mm-hmm.
And actually probably because when I decided I was going to join that, I was like, okay, why did I not do it last year? What stopped me? And I'll tell you, what came into play was an incident that happened 36 years ago that I haven't talked about for 25 years. And I started talking, of all people, I started talking to Wendy Ilsky about it. And I was like, you know, I was a journalism major, and the president of the Senate, Student Senate, accused me of libel. And this is back before we all had recorders and before things were taped. So it was all just my notes.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to go in front of an honor board of 7 faculty members, and I had to defend my actions, basically defend my words that were said in front of many. What he said was done in front of many people, but it came down to him and me and his word against mine and his word against my documentation. Well, ultimately I was cleared of it and all of this. And I don't even remember all of the details of it, but what I remember is walking out the door, he looks at me and he says, sorry about that, just had to keep my name out there.
Oh, wow.
So what stayed with me all these years, for 36 years, and I tell you, when I was telling this story for the first time to Wendy just 6 or 7 weeks ago, I cried for a half an hour. But just by giving voice to my feelings,
Mm-hmm.
it kind of put it almost in the past for me, like where it belongs. Because I realized what came out of that was a sense of powerlessness and a sense of insignificance.
Mm.
You know, I didn't matter. I was throwaway. I just happened to be his opportunity. But I carried those feelings with me. And that's actually DDPY yoga forced me in a weird way to acknowledge that and look at it and dive in where I thought I knew myself pretty well and I had no idea.
Mm-hmm.
No idea. And so that's kind of what this whole challenge is about for me, is overcoming these fears and reclaiming the power that I gave away.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't take it from me. I gave it to him.
That's awesome. It's a powerful thing.
And so when I get in situations where I feel like I'm out of control, or I'm vulnerable, that I don't have all the pieces, then I find that I get really stressed out and all that. And that's what I'm working to get past.
Yeah.
And
the natural reaction there is to escape, to shut it down, to get away from it. Right. But the only way to truly overcome it is to learn to look in the face of it, right, and deal with it anyway and fight it. So
right. And I mean, I'm looking, hopefully, at another 36 years. This has been 36 years of my life, because I didn't even realize it. It just became who I was. Oh, I get anxious. When I have to do something, I get anxious. And so that's who I was. Note,
mm-hmm.
not who I am. So I had the opportunity last week to jump on a Zoom call that Nadia and Pat were doing, that gave people an opportunity on a small platform just to talk about their goals for this session, and I decided I was going to jump in feet first with facing fears. And I let them know that fear was one of the huge things that kept me from even submitting last year. You know, partly that fear of documentation, which I didn't do going back that 36 years, and the fear of just the anxiety of putting myself in front of somebody and being vulnerable. And so I jumped on, I said that, and then I'm like, okay, I'm out here. You know, so they're like, no, but you faced it. You did that.
Yes.
And so when you gave me this chance to do it, I initially was like, I don't know. And then I was like, no, I changed my mind. It's another opportunity. I do find it's getting easier, because I never in a million years would have thought I would have told you that story just a minute ago.
And I'm sitting back here just smiling and nodding, because you talked about, Connie, like, oh, that's one of my biggest fears, is doing stuff like this. So I had said to you, well, I talked to Wendy a little bit about it, and she recommended I reach out to you, and you'd been on my list anyway. When you expressed discomfort, I said, hey, whenever you're ready, let me know how I can help. We can come back to it whenever. The next day, you said, you know what, screw it, let's do this.
Yeah,
and
I'm still not sure I'm ready, but.
Well, hey, and there's opportunities to back out. But if anybody else is seeing this, there's your evidence that Connie is learning every day to face these fears and not to hide from them. So, I mean, this is a huge accomplishment. The fact that you sat here and told your story for 20 minutes, even if it's just to a creepy guy with a mustache on a computer, right? But the idea that other people will see it, it's momentous. Like, you're winning against those fears right now.
I actually am shaking, but I feel like I'm winning.
Yes. Well, it's not always comfortable, right? If it doesn't challenge you, it doesn't change you, as Paige McMahon or Page would say. So
that's right.
Well, Connie, so we don't have you shaking off the chair any longer. What do you say we roll into some rapid fire questions?
Okay, now I start shaking.
Oh, these are gut reactions. There is no wrong answer to these. Okay, are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. What was the first concert you ever attended?
First concert I ever attended was Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons.
That's an awesome one. What was the last one you ever attended?
Last concert I ever attended was Celtic Woman.
Nice. Who was your childhood idol? Who did you want to be when you were a kid?
Who did I want to be? You know, I don't know that I ever wanted to be anybody else. I liked Barry Manilow, but I didn't want to be him.
What would be your dream city to live in?
My dream city to live in. I don't know, it'd be someplace tropical. I always do tropical. Give me the sun, the sand, the surf, and a palm tree, and I'm good to go.
Awesome. What is your proudest moment? You just leave it that simple.
My proudest moment was probably when I had been at my job as an occupational therapy assistant for 1 year, and I got what they call the customer service award because of my ability to build a rapport and affect such awesome change with my patients.
That's awesome. That's a great one. What is your most embarrassing moment?
My most embarrassing moment, but the one that comes to mind is I used to have a Saturn, and the keys could actually fit a lot of different cars.
Oh.
Yeah, I didn't know that. And I went out and I went to one that looked like mine, and I unlocked it and got in. And I look in the rear view mirror and there is a car seat.
Oh.
And I don't have a baby. And I looked around and I got out and I locked the door and closed it and tiptoed over to my car.
At least the car seat was empty.
Yes.
All right. What's your favorite thing to do in your spare time?
Favorite thing to do in my spare time is I don't get to do this often anymore, but it used to be walk. In fact, for, again, one of those just to prove I can do it kind of things, for my 51st birthday, I decided about 4 days before that I was going to walk 51 miles on my 51st birthday. And I made a 10-mile course through my neighborhood. And every 10th mile, I ended up back at the house. And my husband had like water or lunch or whatever waiting for me. And I went back out. And in one day, I completed 51 miles.
Wow.
Walking.
That is amazing. What was the best thing you ever ate?
The best thing I ever ate. I don't know. Best thing I ever drank though was we were in St. Martin and I was in Phillipsburg, and it was during Carnival, and there were no vehicular traffic, and we were going back to the next town, and it was over a mountain, and my husband and I decided we didn't want to pay $15 for a taxi, so we decided to walk it. And it was a 5-mile walk over a mountain, but we weren't smart enough to take water with us, and it was 86 degrees and incredibly humid. And my husband's like, the very first place we come to where we can get something to drink, we're going, and it happened to be a Kentucky Fried Chicken of all things. And we went in, and I paid $4 for a bottle of water, and it was the best thing I ever drank in my life.
Awesome. I'll have to check out the St. Martin KFC.
By the way.
What's that?
Heineken was only $2, by the way, because it's Dutch territory.
All right. What is the worst advice you've ever received?
Oh, the worst advice I've ever received was, in fact, I may have mentioned this during the course of the interview. The physical therapist I went to see last February, here I am working on flexibility, and he says to me, at our age, really 80% is enough. We don't need to be that flexible.
All right. What is the best advice you've ever received?
The best advice that I've ever received, I would say lately, is when I apologized one time in the 2022 challenge for posting twice in one day. And Brittany Rose wrote to me, do not ever apologize for taking up space.
No.
And I thought that's great advice.
That's what it's there for.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, you survived that, Connie. All the hard work is over. So now, because this show is about community, I'm going to ask you to pick a member or two of the DDPY community that you think deserves a shout out.
Okay, I'll do that. But first, I was waiting for you to ask me my favorite quote.
Oh, yeah, go for it.
I have a brand new favorite quote that just came in the AARP magazine. See, there's nothing wrong with being over 50. And this is what it says. When doubt or fear begins to take hold of your spirit, let determination cover you. Let determination cover your body like a quilt on a winter night.
That's a good one.
Angela Bassett.
Wow. I got it.
Yeah, well, I saw that and I was like, okay, that's my quote for life.
That's perfect. All right. Well,
okay.
Who from the DDPY community deserves a little recognition and a little bit of your reasoning?
Okay. I'll try to make them fast because I got several of them.
Okay.
First person who ever connected with me. We've kind of been really good friends on this community. We've actually gotten to meet in person.
Awesome.
Matthew Wilner and Curtis Hughes both were early supporters of me. And when I started facing those doubts, they both were, and dealing with things with my mom, they both were quick to jump in because we had similarities in lots of ways where that's concerned.
Awesome.
Sarah Smith, because who doesn't love Sarah Smith? Denise Cirque, because she's my fabulous 50s friend. You know, we went through a bunch of these challenges that Jason Henry threw out there together last year.
Awesome.
Wendy Ilsky, because Wushu Wendy is just like the bomb.
Yeah, this show is not a promotional vehicle for Wendy Ilsky by any means. It's totally natural that people say that. This is not paid programming.
And then there's one last person who's kind of like, his name's not out there all over the place. To me, Joe Poshner is the picture of determination.
Yes.
He posts his little things for himself. He's not doing it for anybody else. It's just for him, for his own accountability. And I happened to make a comment the other day about how I've been watching him for a year, and he's like, I didn't know anybody ever noticed. And he is the most determined person I think I've seen on the entire community. So I had to throw his name out there.
Yes, Joe's one of the people that I interacted first with in my journey a couple years back. Always an inspiration to see him. He just never stops. Well, Connie, there's just one more thing that we ask everybody to do here to help us wrap up the show, and that's give us a bang to shut her down.
Bang.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Whatever you are, be a good one. We'll see you next time.
Money got my happiness, today I'm feeling great. And if you smile all the time, then your face gon' turn that way. Yeah, it feels good, don't it? Damn, it feels good to have people up on and say, yeah.